It's day. It's a wonderful Thursday. Well, not so wonderful. It's extremely rainy right now, but it's still a wonderful day regardless of the weather, right? So I hope you've all been well. I figured I would finally do my Q&A video because a lot of you guys were wondering about the EPIC program and also so many questions about Seoul as well. If you want more detailed information about EPIC and how to apply and the interview process, I did make another video about that. I'm sure it'll come up somewhere here right now, and if not, I also have the link below. So these are all the questions that I'll be covering today. So if you're curious, feel free to just click throughout the video if you need like one specific question. Okay, so first question is, how did I get placed in Seoul? So this is my biggest question that I always get because I think a lot of people want to live here in Seoul, Korea, which makes sense because Seoul is really nice, although I do recommend Busan as well. So a lot of people say you have to be one of the first ones to apply in order to get Seoul. I actually applied extremely late. So I think for this year, the one that I'm doing, the job application opened up around August. I want to say like August or September. And I applied late December. I was actually at orientation when the rest of my items, like to get the job, was still coming in from America. So I don't know what happened because that definitely didn't work for me because you couldn't be any later. Like I'm sure I was the latest person applying through EPIC, but I still got into Seoul. So I think definitely getting in early does have its benefits for sure. I definitely would recommend that. But things that helped me get into Seoul and made me have a stronger, I would say, application would definitely be, for one, the application itself. It has to be really strong. So when you have the interview with the EPIC coordinator, you guys will be going over the application that you just submitted. And the entire time the guy was going through me, which his name is Aaron, we were talking about my application, he kept saying, oh, this is perfect, oh, this is perfect, oh, this is perfect, like you don't need to change anything. So for one, I would say the essays was my strongest point because I did not have to change anything for my essay. He was quite pleasantly surprised, and I suck at writing. I super suck at writing. But what I did was I did a lot of research. I researched how to write properly because even in college I still sucked at it. And I also researched a bunch about Korea's education. So I actually studied really heavy about Korea's education system, and I made sure I tied that into my essay and made it also line up with my ideas and goals of Korea. Really recommend you a lot of research, especially background about Korea, not just K-pop and K-dramas. Research a lot about the education system. Why do you want to be a teacher? And if you can somehow mix that together, then you have a really strong essay. Again, I do go into more detail in my other videos, so do check that out. Seriously, if you want to get placed into a city that you really want, really recommend to put a lot of the effort and energy and show that you care and show that you want to be here. I do also have some teaching experience in the US. I was a teaching assistant and a tutor for my entire college career life, so there is a possibility that that definitely had helped a lot. So one thing I do recommend, that if you are still back in the States or wherever you are, to definitely do some volunteer work or to try to get some kind of tutoring position while you're at your home country. So even just for a few months or 1 month even, or a few weeks, even if you just decide to volunteer at a summer camp or if you decide to volunteer just as a general tutor, that can still all go into your application. That hey, I may not be a teacher, but I do have experience with kids. If you can just show that you're not completely brand new to teaching, I think that also really helps. Also, a quick point I really wanted to make too, I applied directly through EPIC, and I think that super helps. I think if you apply through a recruiter like Corvia or something, not that they won't be beneficial. Recruiters are very helpful because the application can be quite intimidating. But I think if you do apply directly like I did, your chances pretty much skyrocket. I'm pretty sure I don't know anyone who gotten placed in Seoul who went through a recruiter. Not saying that that doesn't happen, like you could probably still get placed in Seoul through a recruiter, but I personally don't know anyone who has. So I think if you can apply directly to the EPIC website, I think that will definitely increase your chances. So question 2 is, do you have to learn Korean? And I recommend that you personally do. However, you do not have to learn Korean. It could also depend where you're placed, especially Seoul. If you are in the rural areas, more than likely there aren't that much English speaking. So yeah, it just depends on the city. If you're in the main city, you'll find English. If you're not in the main city, you don't find English. However, people do get by teaching English in rural areas without studying that much Korean. So you do not need to know Korean beforehand, but I do strongly recommend it because one, Hangul is super easy to read. You can learn that in 1 day. Two, it's just to respect the country. I'm a big advocate of learning the language of the country you're living in. So personally, to me, I think it's just more respectful to try and take effort into learning the language. Despite me being in Seoul, it's quite easy for me to not speak a lick of Korean. However, I do my best to try. I still ask questions. I have a friend that comes over and she helps me out. I try to go to language meetups. I try to ask my co-teachers questions every so often. I really try to listen to them too. I would say my listening is probably one of my biggest strong points, and then my speaking, because I'm always listening and asking questions. So I definitely do recommend that you do learn the language beforehand. And you don't even have to learn so much. I just recommend you start learning the language beforehand. You don't have to be like fluent or anything. But I think if you can start with the basics, start Hangul, that's what I did. So I started with the writing system, the writing reading system, and then just sharpen it once you get here. So my answer to that is not necessarily, but strongly recommend. For sure, learn how to read and write, or for sure at least learn how to read, you know, exactly how to write. But also just put more effort into at least learning the basics so you can just get around. Hello, thank you, how much, these kind of things. Just at least simple conversational, I would say 100% for sure personally. But again, I've met teachers who've been here for years and can't speak a lick of Korean. But I don't like that, so I recommend you don't do that too. Another question is it expensive? Again, it depends where you're at. I'm in Seoul. Seoul is one of the most expensive cities here in Korea. I mean, it is the most expensive city in Korea. It is the 6th most expensive city in the world. So it is a little bit expensive here. But me personally, I think it's quite cheap compared to Tokyo, because when I was staying in Japan, my money goes back really, really quickly. Like, I don't know what Japan does, but Japan is super expensive. So compared to Japan, and as compared to Tokyo, Seoul is kind of like a fresh breath air. But I was also living in Thailand, so it's way more expensive than Thailand. In terms of US prices, I can kind of compare it to that. So Seoul, I think, is for sure cheaper than our bigger cities such as New York City, possibly Chicago and LA. I would say that Seoul's prices is maybe slightly below Chicago and kind of like slightly above the average US city. So that is my price range for you. If you're outside of Seoul, you should be fine. It's pretty good on the cheap end, I would say. So how much money do you need to bring beforehand? So Epic recommends that you bring $1,000 beforehand. It's not a requirement, however, it's just a recommended price range. I also do suggest it just because you don't know what comes up. However, you don't necessarily have to spend $1,000 in a month, but again, it just depends on how much you spend, what do you want to do, if you go out a lot, if you want to eat, if you want to explore like within that first month, then yeah, you probably want to bring $1,000. But if you're kind of just getting used to adjusting, you're going to take it easy, you probably get by with less than $1,000. I would say maybe like $700. So I would for sure say $700 to $1,000, but Epic does recommend that you do bring $1,000. So what's the qualification that you need in order to teach in Korea? You just need a bachelor's degree from your home university. You do need to be a native English speaker, so you need to be coming from a native English speaking country. And you also need a TOEFL requirement if you do not have a teaching license or degree. So, and you can get those online for quite cheap. It doesn't take that long, maybe about a couple weeks to do. So yeah. So my next question is what to do beforehand, and do a lot of research. A lot of research. Just because you don't want to come here thinking that this is K-pop idol and you're going to see BTS walking down the street. Like, no. Korea is not a K-drama, okay? So keep in mind that Korea is a country with many different people, with many different ideas, and it has its own rules and laws that you have to follow. So definitely do a lot of research. Not everyone gets into Seoul either. So I do wish and hope you guys get into Seoul. But you have to think, if you might get placed in a rural area, you should plan and research about that too. There are definitely benefits to being in a rural area. For one, you save a lot more money. 3, if you decide to stay longer, you gain an additional $2,000. Seoul doesn't get any of that. So there are definitely some plus sides to living in a rural city. And I would definitely, again, do my research. I would also join Facebook groups. There's so many Facebook groups that you can join and ask questions. Do that. Facebook's great because it's a good way to get to know people who are already living in Korea, or people who are going through the same process as you are, and to ask questions and to get through things together while still getting more information from people already living here. I would try to have as much things completed at home as possible. So if you do have like debt, ideally it would be good if you could try and finish it beforehand, but most people don't, so that's understandable. I still am currently paying off my student loans, but if you have any other like just baggage Definitely just try and complete it beforehand. I think that way you don't come to Korea stressed about America, you know, so, or wherever you are. Still, definitely try and complete as much baggage as possible. Have your qualifications finished and done. Try to get them done early. That would be smart. That way you're not stressing. Don't stress yourself. I know a lot of you guys are going to do it anyway, because I do it. I apply super late, so I know. But don't do it if possible, okay? Try not to overpack. That's another thing that a lot of people really do. I came here with one suitcase, and I was coming from Thailand. But some people coming straight from America or wherever, they had 3 huge suitcases or something like that. You don't need that much stuff. You can easily buy a lot of things here. I remember some people tell me, I don't know why I packed blankets, or I don't know why I packed towels, or I don't know why I packed like dish detergent or something. You don't need that kind of stuff. You can easily buy it here. Only buy things that you cannot get here. I mean, if you really have like a favorite go-to dish detergent, sure, but more than likely no, so don't worry about that. Do a lot of research on things you can't get here. Deodorant's one of them. You cannot get deodorant here. You cannot get deodorant in all of Asia. It's really stressful. I've lived in Japan, I lived in Thailand. It's the exact same way. Deodorant is just not a thing in Asia. If you have certain foods that you want to eat, for sure, bring those foods over. But try not to overpack because that's going to stress you out. Again, those people carrying those 3 suitcases were struggling the entire time they were here, especially because you have to move around a lot in the beginning. So yeah, try to pack as light as possible. And last but not least, I wanted to just say that every situation is completely different. So my situation is only going to happen to me. I'm going to have that interviewer. I'm going to be placed in this city. I'm going to get this apartment. I'm going to have my co-teachers. I'm going to have my principals. Not everything's the same. So just be prepared that you might not get along with your co-teachers. You might get a really small apartment. You might get a huge apartment. You never know. Like, there are people with bigger places than I have. And my place is still pretty small, like in terms of like American or Western ideas. You might have awesome kids, you might not have awesome kids. Today I teach 4th grade and they're my hardest class ever and I'm not prepared for them. But some people don't have any hard kids at all. So again, every situation is different. Don't look at me and expect this is what you're gonna have. Just come with a very open mind and you'll do very well. So again, my strong recommendations for you for everything is to do a lot of research. Number 1, get things done early. Have an open mind. Be respectful and learn a lot about Korea and Korean culture itself. Just because you're coming to this country, you're living in this country, be respectful of this country. And to just come with an open heart too. Enjoy life. It's going to be a great time when you come here. You're going to have a blast. There are always going to be hard times. Everyone has hard times. I have hard times. My apartment wasn't furnished for the first 3 weeks and I was sleeping on the floor. This happens. But don't give up, you know. Everyone experiences something difficult, but you're going to have the greatest of times and you're going to be so happy that you decided to come here. You're going to be so happy that you decided to do it and you're going to make a lot of new friends and it's just going to be a wonderful time. So yes, I hope this video was quite informational enough for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below. I always do my best to answer everyone as best as I can. And if possible, please follow me on Instagram because right now I'm trying to post more on my Instagram and I want to be more creative with my photos and share my life in Korea. As well as I like to post more on Instagram stories so you can kind of see more in depth of my adventures throughout Seoul and throughout Korea and wherever I'm at. And I like to also give tips and advice through Instagram stories. I also share my kids and a lot of things we do. So yes, please do check me out on Instagram if you are curious. This is Day saying have a great and delightful day. Bye!
Okay, choose the letter. C.